Hello, everyone, and welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Douglas Johnson. I'm a certified yoga teacher, ordained minister, and kirtan artist. And today, wanted to give a brief talk about reframing for gratitude. Before I do that, I do want to thank my patrons on Patreon. They make these talks possible. If you'd like to join that community, please check out the links below. All right, so reframing for gratitude. This is, again, just something from my personal life just recently. Last week, I unexpectedly had, for me, what is a rather large outlay of about $1,500 in expenses come out of nowhere. So it was a combination of, again, no warning on early in the week. My computer screen cracked out of nowhere, and I had to get that repaired. It was over $700 to get it repaired. And then a few days later, my car wouldn't start, and that ended up being about $600 to get that fixed. So it's quite a expensive week for me, out of nowhere, having these expenses. Now, the first place that my mind went, now interestingly, which is a good sign, many of you know I've been struggling over the last year or so, and I've been in what I call a dark night of the soul. But one very good sign that I might be coming out of that was that I didn't emotionally react. So there wasn't a heaviness, an emotional heaviness that came with these events. I just basically took them with stride, which is very good. You know, the expenses are the expenses, and there's nothing we can do about them. And so being able to deal with the expenses without the addition of heavy emotional burden is really, really helpful. And so this is what spirituality can help us to cultivate. And this is really what we'd like to achieve on a regular basis. Life will have its ups and downs, and things like cars that won't start or cracked computer screens, these things happen to everybody. And so being able to deal with them, and even larger things like death, being able to experience them fully, but without it pulling us into a black emotional hole. Doesn't mean we don't feel sadness. It doesn't mean we don't maybe feel frustration or other emotions. Emotions really aren't the issue. It's kind of the underlying sense of who we are, who and what we are. And so if we're too identified with material things and the material world and conventional viewpoints, then generally those things seem really overwhelming. So again, for me, that amount of money is not a small amount of money. I know for some people it might be an annoyance, it might not be a big deal, but it's not really a showstopper. And thankfully, I did have the funds to deal with that. But again, for me, that's not a small amount of money. So one way, and this was happening to me, even though there wasn't a huge emotional reaction, I did find my mind sort of ruminating, you know, in a kind of a woe is me kind of viewpoint. And at one point I caught myself and I decided to focus on the fact that I actually did have the funds to deal with the situation. I didn't have to use credit or anything like that. And again, not a showstopper. It maybe means I won't be able to make some purchases that I hoped to make or intended to make, or those are delayed, but it's not like I won't be able to eat. So I actually do have the funds, and if you're watching this, chances are you're in a similar situation. Even if the outlay was larger, like maybe you have a hole in your roof or something like that, and you have to pay a lot of money, and it's very frustrating and inconvenient. But you know, we can actually be thankful that we actually do have the funds, because there have been times in my life where I didn't. Something like this would have literally been just a showstopper. So that's one area where I can be grateful. Another area where I found I could be grateful was, it's actually really modern life is really convenient. So the computer, I was essentially able to go around the corner and have it serviced, and I got it back basically the same day. It was a very expensive repair, and I actually had to pay extra to get it back, but I absolutely have to have my computer for what I do. But like, wow, that's amazing. If we were in another country, if I lived in another country, if this were another day or age or time, that might not have been quite so easy to find someone who could service this technology so nearby and being able to do it so quickly. So again, this is another area. Instead of focusing on the outlay of cash, you can focus on, wow, there's how amazing that there's somebody who can fix this. And then very similar with the automobile, the car situation. There was somebody who could look at the automobile very nearby, close by. They had the parts that I needed, right? The resources, the things, and it was taken care of relatively quickly. So I'm sharing with you the specifics of my situation, but really what I'm sharing is something that we can all do. There might be something in your life right now that is frustrating you, that is challenging, is difficult. But can you find a way to reframe that where you feel a sense of gratitude that actually there's so much that is going right with the situation? So again, in my case, if I focused on the outlay of cash or the money, then it seems like a bad thing that I had to spend so much money in 1 week seemingly out of nowhere. But if you look at kind of the on balance equation, there was really a lot of things that to be grateful for, because again, I could have had the computer break or the car break and not had any of those things. There might have not been anyone around to fix it. They may not have had the parts to fix it. And even if they were around and they had the parts, they may not have been able to fix it so quickly. So again, that's a lot to be grateful and thankful for. And so on balance, I feel like that's a pretty good deal. So this, I think, can be applied to many situations. So again, if I focused on the money, it seems like a bad thing. I had to pay all this money unexpectedly. But if I focus on the other things, there's a lot to be grateful for. And so you might find this in your own life, a similar situation where there's something that you've been focusing on one aspect, maybe the financial aspect or some other aspect of a situation that you find frustrating or scary or whatever it is. It brings up a kind of a negative emotion. But can you find another perspective, one where you're actually seeing how there's a lot to be thankful for in that situation, because computer screens break, cars break down. This isn't personal. That's a very important thing to understand, is it's not like it happens just to me. The wealthiest person in the world will have their car break down. Now, they have the resources and the means to fix it very easily, but I also had the resources and the means. It might be a larger uh, dent in my wallet than someone who's very wealthy, but you know, uh, I still had the resources, and I'm grateful for that. So I'd love to hear from you. Have you had, or do you have a situation like this that perhaps you can just turn things a little bit and find room for gratitude in a situation that might be challenging you or difficult for you? I'd love to hear from you, so leave that in the comments below. All right, everyone, that's it for today. Until next time, namaste, and have a beautiful, beautiful day.